Are you listening to people that tell you what you want to hear? Or are you listening to people who tell you what you need to hear? And I think that's a valid question, because there's a lot of so-called experts out there that will tell you exactly what you need to hear. And they'll tell you because they have a solution for you that fits that narrative. I had an interesting experience with one of my clients and their family member who was on a separate plan, who maybe follows a little bit differently. And they were speaking about maybe some things that they were listening to, and where it might have been well and true, it was obviously painted in bias. It was obviously painted in experience, and that's okay. I'm not judging this in any way. But what I'm asking you to do in this case, what's reminded me to ask you to do, is to go through this filter and to consider, like, what are you listening to, what you want to hear or what you need to hear? You may not want to hear that you have to look at your nutrition and you can't have a pint of ice cream every night. You may not want to hear that. You might want to listen to somebody who tells you that you can and it'll fit. And I'm probably one of those coaches that says, if you can make it fit, make it fit. But on a side note, this is not a long-term solution. I would never have that as a long-term solution. I would not say that all the time you should be doing it. I think you make it fit what you need to fit, make it fit. But that's neither here nor there. The point is this, is if you want to hear that you can do this all the time, you're going to listen to that person. But what you actually need to hear is that you're not going to get enough nutrition that way. And you might not want to have to focus on tracking at the beginning your steps, your nutrition, your protein, focusing on exercises, tracking, using an app. Like, oh, I'm not an app person. I get it. But we have to move forward. We have to find what works. And sometimes that's experimenting. Sometimes that's trying it, even if you don't think you're that type of person. You got to try it. But you don't want to hear that. I know that. But you probably need to hear it. And the reason I'm passionate about this is I've noticed people sort of gravitating towards these people, these gurus who are providing solutions, and they speak to people. They speak to people because they find common pain points and they make it seem like their solution is the only solution. But then at the end of the day, you have to experiment. You have to figure out what works for you. And sometimes that means listening to your coach, the one that's telling you things that you do not want to hear. Wants you to try things that maybe you're a little bit skeptical of trying. Because I can say from experience, I've seen a lot of things work. I've seen a common thread though. That's where I start. I start with a common set of threads of approaches. And of course we go individualize from there. But in the end, it's not about what you want to hear. You may want to hear that it's because of your hormones that you're having a hard time seeing changes. And that might be somewhat true. But what you need to hear is that in the end of the day, all bodies decide whether to store fat or keep fat based on energy balance, based on how much activity you're engaging in and how much food is coming in. If you're in a position where you're having a lot of food come in and you're not using it, your body will store it for later. It opens up a savings account, if you want to call it that. But you might not want to hear that. You might want to hear that it's the hormones. And I don't want to discount the influence of hormones. I think there is an influence. But in the end of the day, it's about what you need to hear and not what you want to hear.